Hello there, and welcome today for a scintillating tutorial on what I call the simple enemy. So we're going to create an enemy that'll chase you around based on line of sight, or otherwise known as pond sensing in Unreal. So we're going to try and make this one quick, and the whole point of this is to make a simple enemy that can chase you around and kill you. So not going to do anything super sophisticated. Um, I'm just going to get it working, show you some tips on how to make it work better. But let's get right to it. Alright, so one of the key components we need to start our simple enemy is a skeletal mesh. Now with Unreal 4, it allows you to import a skeletal mesh without having to put bones on it or do anything special. So first I'm going to go into my tutorial folder here, which is where I keep all my assets. I'm going to create a new folder, call it enemy. Now I'm going to say import. I'm going to go to my proper folder here. And boy, I've got all my, everything's all messed up here. Unreal 4, static meshes. And what I want to bring in is where's my one? One eye big, one eye shooter, there he is. One eye big, that's the guy I want. So to import a mesh, super simple. You need to have an FBX or an OBJ and make sure it's, exported from Blender, Maya, 3D Max, whatever, is one of those two files. I'm not sure the whole range of mesh files you can bring in, but FBX is what I usually do. So if you want to import something that's just a ball with a face on it, you can certainly do that. It'll bring in the textures and the UVs ready to go. I've modeled out a simple little enemy here, which I'm going to bring in. You don't necessarily have to model anything out very specific. Like I said, it could be a round sphere for the head, two arms made of cubes, and some kind of texture as a face. So you do have to bring it as a skeletal mesh though. So open, and now when it comes up with the FBX import options, the only thing I have to do is check this. Import as skeletal. That right there is going to give me my skeletal mesh. That's all I have to do. There's no special, nothing special to do other than that. So I'm going to say go ahead and import textures materials. Say import all. Brings it in. Could not find bind pose. That is okay because we do not have a pose set. We just brought in a normal piece of mesh, an FBX. And where did it put it? Oh, it put everything in here in my, didn't go in the enemy folder. That's okay. It's in my tutorial folder. I can live with that. So here's my skeletal mesh. If I double click on it and open on the other side, bring it over here. So as you can see, this is my enemy. Big teeth, red eyes. And obviously if you bring in a specific piece of, not geometry, but bring in a static mesh, you're going to have to worry about if it's set at 0, 0, 0, rotated in the proper rotation. If you bring it in and then you set it up and your enemy's facing backwards, best thing to do is go back to Maya, rotate it 180 degrees, and then re-export it as an FBX. Make sure you collapse all the history, reset all the transforms, or freeze the transforms, collapse the history before you bring it over, or it'll bring over all kinds of bad data, and that won't be good. So, and if you're using a ball and it doesn't matter which way it's facing, that's fine. You can just bring it over without worrying about the rotation and everything. The reason I say that is when you set up your enemy, yes, you could rotate it in the enemy blueprint, but that tends to cause problems. If you rotate it within there and then all the programming and computation that's going on is it's trying to figure out how to track you and everything, you can get into some weird situations. It can rotate wrong and do some strange things. So definitely bring it in at 0, 0, 0 and make sure the rotation is correct. Alright, so we have our static mesh brought in. Now we need to create an enemy class blueprint, which I'm going to create in my enemy folder, which my static mesh did not. So I right click, I go to blueprint class, and I'm going to make sure it is a character blueprint. I repeat, character blueprint. Got that? Click on character. I will name it enemy. And there's our enemy character class blueprint. Double click on that. So let's be good at this point and save everything. Save all. So that little asterisk you see here tells you that it was not saved. Now they're all saved. And if we look at we go up to tutorial, you notice that all the things that were imported, that asterisk is gone as well, so it saved everything. Back into my enemy folder. Next thing I need to do is go into my enemy blueprint, and I'm going to add a skeletal mesh. So I'm going to go add component, skeletal mesh. Make sure it's skeletal mesh. Your enemy will not move if it's not skeletal mesh. So I'm just going to leave it named skeletal mesh for now. So the skeletal mesh is selected over here. I go over here, and now I need to select the skeletal mesh. So I click on it. So there's not many skeletal meshes in my actual project. So when I click on the drop-down menu here, it finds the only two there are. So it's one eye big. Click on it, and voila. One eye big is, whoa, one eye big's looking a little high here for the collision capsule. I'm going to want to bring that down, fit the capsule a little bit better. Hope that doesn't screw anything up. I think that'll be alright though. Leave that right there. See how the scale is. The collision capsule looks a little small. I might need to scale it. But again, better to do in Maya. So remember to fix some of that stuff in Maya. You can adjust the scale here, but again, it could lead to some wonkiness with your performance and just how your enemy behaves. So my skeletal mesh is in. Next is to go to my viewport and add pawn sensing, which is another component. So I'm still in viewport, go to add component, pawn sensing, and the best thing to do is right here, but you can also type in the search, works very well. Unlike the blueprint node search, which can be very deceptive, this search works. Pawn sensing. Alright, so one trick, this is trick, warning, 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 trick, trick, trick. I'm going to click on pawn sensing and I don't see anything. Oh my god, it's broken! I've ruined everything! No, it's not broken, just hit compile. And I select pawn sensing, and voila! There's my pawn sensing. So I'm not interested in messing with the hearing right now, but you can see there's a hearing threshold, which I just made smaller. Another hearing threshold, made that one smaller, which I don't care about. And this green one is my, what is the term here? It's sight radius and peripheral vision. There we go. These are the two you want to tune. So my sight radius is the size of the cone you're making. So right now, see how big it is, but now I make my peripheral vision, change the angle so it comes up with more of a sight cone. And this is another tip that you're going to want to know about, and I'll bring this up again later, but warning, 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 you want your sight cone to be much bigger than you think you do. You really want it to cover a lot of area, especially the angles around the enemy. It tends to, your player tends to, the minute your player is not 100% in the vision cone, it seems like your enemy will lose you. So making it slightly bigger or a lot bigger is good. And this doesn't go out very far, so I'm going to make the range on it, or the radius on it, bigger. So that's a good starting point. Make sure you guys make it huge and get it working first. Don't get all freaked out if it doesn't work and then realize that your sight radius was so small it couldn't find you. Alright, so there's your pawn sensing. Next step is we need to add an event. So my pawn sensing selected, I go to details and I go to on-see pawn. Click on on-see pawn. Drag off this, and what I want to do is a simple move to actor. There's simple move to actor. So this is going to move it to our, when he sees you, when you walk into that cone, it's going to move towards you. So next point we want to do is, sorry, I'm reading my notes here. On-see pawn node, connect to the goal. Now the controller, we want to connect it to get controller. Compile. So this is the simplest setup you can do to have them move and chase the player. There are other sophisticated ways that we can go over later. I can add some different areas to let you have it not lose you as quickly, because as soon as you go out of its pawn sensing right now, it will lose you, and it's way too fast. So this is the most basic setup we can do. From the pawn sensing, we create an event, which is right here, on-see pawn, simple move to actor. The pawn is the goal, the controller is the get controller, which the controller obviously is you. At this point, we want to make Navmesh for our level. So we go back to our main panel here, which is in our level, not in the enemy. We are not in the enemy blueprint. Reminder, reminder. We are in the map. We come over here and we just type in Navmesh. And Navmesh bounds volume. Drag and drop this into your world or your level. Now spread this where you want your enemy to be able to move. So anywhere that this is, it's going to create Navmesh. Has to be in the ground a little bit. You know, I'd say like a meter or something. Don't have it hovering above the ground. Make sure it's in there. So it's covering my whole floor in this tiny little room. Looks like it is. So now let's build geometry. Now how do I know there's Navmesh on here? The Navmesh will be P green. So hit the letter P on your keyboard. Voila! We have Navmesh. Okay. Our level now has Navmesh. Next thing we want to do is drag and drop our enemy into the world, pretty much. Let's go over here. Doesn't look like this enemy was saved. I'm going to save. Go back here. And all I'm going to do is drag and drop one of these in here. And it pops up on top. Let's turn around our enemy. And you can actually see the Navmesh, or the vision cone. It's pretty big. It's going to see us no matter what. Let's see what happens when we hit play. Ah! Run, 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 run. See how quickly it loses you? And it's not even turning after me. Ah, come on you. Chase me. So that's the simplest you can do, and as you can tell, because I leave the cone immediately, it can't chase me. So what we'll do in the next video is we will create a delay so it doesn't lose you as quickly. It'll count to like 1, 2, 3, 4 as long as you want. It'll keep following you, and then if it checks and you're not in pawn sensing, then it'll stop chasing you. That way you can run around corners. It's going to chase you, but you can still feel like you can lose it after you run around corners and around this building and that building, and okay, you lost it, but it's going to chase you for a while. We'll also look at how it could actually, let's show you the easiest way it can kill you. So if we go here, actually no, I'm going to do that in the next video. So this is just your basic how to get this thing working. This is the starting point, and that's pretty much it. So part 1 of enemy is done. Make sure it's a skeletal mesh. Make sure there's Navmesh. Hit P to check. Make sure you import skeletal mesh and put skeletal mesh in your enemy. Don't put static mesh. Make sure you have pawn sensing on. Make sure your pawn sensing vision, which we see with this giant green cone, is big enough. And make sure you've created this event on C pawn, and you do that by clicking on pawn sensing. Create it here. Simple move to actor. Get controller, and make sure the pawn and the goal are connected. That is the simplest way to make an enemy. So next video I'm going to go into how not to let it make you lose you as quickly, so it's a little more fun and realistic. And I will show you how it can kill you, and also add some sounds and simple things to bring up the drama. Alright, that's it for part 1. I shall return for part 2. Bye-bye.